fresh, clean, safe. These are all things we expect from our drinking water. But how do water companies such as Wessex Water ensure they are always delivering a high quality product to their customers?
The water we use needs to be collected, stored, treated, and then pumped through miles of pipes before it even gets to your home. Join us as we explore the journey our drinking water takes from cloud to cup.
For most of us, getting high quality water is as simple as turning on a tap. But it takes a lot more than you might think to get the water you drink. Drinking water starts its life as rain, either soaking into aquifers deep in the ground, or flowing into rivers and streams and eventually collecting into reservoirs, like this one here at Durley in Somerset.
Wessex Water supplies the majority of its customers via groundwater sources using boreholes. But in this video, we're going to focus on how we treat water from reservoirs. Some of the water that Durley Reservoir collects is from the sky, but most of it comes from runoff from surrounding fields and streams. This area is known as the catchment of the reservoir.
Catchment management is about managing the landscape upstream of the reservoir, trying to make sure that the water coming into the reservoir is as clean as possible. We've got wetlands at the top of the reservoir which slow the water down through a series of pools where sediment should be trapped, keeping that out of the reservoir and doing everything we can to make sure that water in the reservoir is as good a quality as possible before we treat.
Now we know where the water comes from. How is it treated? What does it take to turn raw water like this into drinking water like this? The raw water is taken from the draw-off tower behind me. It's screened before being moved on to the treatment works below.
Our journey through the works begins here at the inlet. I met with production technician Joe, who will guide us through the site and show us how the treatment process works. Here the incoming raw water is tested for its turbidity, a measurement of how many particles such as sediments and algae are present in the water. The raw water's acidity or pH is also measured at this stage.
So it's really important that we test the pH and turbidity of the raw water, so it'll indicate any issues with the raw water if anything's happened up there, but it also gives us a base level for how much chemical we need to dose at the first stage of clarification.
The next stage of the process is called dosing. This is where the first chemicals are added to the raw water.
So here we are dosing sulfuric acid. We do this to optimise the pH for the next stage of the process.
The water's acidity or pH is adjusted at several times throughout the journey. The pH needs to be balanced carefully for the upcoming treatments to be most effective.
So this is the second stage of the process. Here we add aluminium sulfate, which is a coagulant, and we use this to help create floc.
After dosing, the water moves into the flocculation chambers. Here in this large tank, the water is stirred. This helps clump the dirt and other suspended solids together to form a floc. This jar test shows us how the flocculation chambers work on a smaller scale. It is carried out by scientists at the treatment works to figure out the right levels of aluminium sulfate to add to the incoming raw water. After the jars are filled with raw water and the paddles begin to stir, the coagulant is added. Some time passes and the solids clump together to create our floc. Our now flocculated water flows to the next stage of treatment, to the DAF tanks. DAF stands for Dissolved Air Flotation. In these huge tanks, highly aerated clean water is mixed with our now flocculated water. Microbubbles attach to the individual flocs and float them to the surface to form a blanket, what's known as the sludge blanket.
Oh yeah, no, I can really see all those solids have floated to the surface. But what happens to it all next?
So here at Durley, we slightly close the DAP outlet valve, which allows the level to rise, and then the sludge blanket will just float off. So we don't waste the sludge we take off. It goes through further treatment on site before being tankered to a water recycling centre.
Right, so once all that sludge has been taken off, does that leave the clean water underneath to go on elsewhere?
That's correct, yeah.
The water now flows from the DAF tanks to the rapid gravity sand filters. Here it is quickly filtered through layers of carbon-rich anthracite, then sand, and finally gravel. This essentially filters out any remaining particles. Before moving on to the next stage, sodium hypochlorite is added. This compound makes soluble metals such as manganese easier to remove. The water leaves the building and passes through manganese filters. These contain sand media that remove the manganese. Although manganese is perfectly fine to drink in small quantities and part of our recommended dietary intake, it's removed as it gives the water an earthy taste that most people find unpleasant. The final stage of filtration happens at these large vessels, the GACs.
So these tanks around us are full of granular activated carbon. They've got a very large surface area to help remove pesticides and little bits we haven't been able to get out earlier in the process.
It's now time to disinfect the water. Chlorine is added, and the water passes slowly through a contact tank. This gives the chlorine enough time to kill off harmful bugs.
So do we leave all that chlorine in the water?
No, the water right now would taste just like a swimming pool. So we add sulphur dioxide to remove the chlorine from the water.
Right, so we've screened, we've cleaned, we've disinfected and finally taken the chlorine out.
Yeah.
Are we ready to go?
No, there is just one more step. Some treatment works have a final UV stage. Microorganisms such as Cryptosporidium are resistant to chlorine, so to deal with this, we use a UV treatment.
The water is passed through a special ultraviolet reactor. This unit is fitted with UV lamps, each contained within a special housing. The UV light disrupts the DNA of the Cryptosporidium, rendering it harmless.
The water is now ready to go. It leaves Durley Treatment Works and is pumped to a nearby storage reservoir, ready to be distributed to local homes. A small amount of chlorine is still present in the water at this stage, and this is to ensure the water remains safe to drink on its journey through the pipes. The water in this glass has been collected, screened, treated, and then pumped through miles of pipework to give us clean, safe water. It's vital to our everyday lives. So remember the journey that this water's taken the next time you flush the loo, take a shower, or have a drink.